Okay, I think we should get started just to respect everybody's time. And so I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you to Gregory and Renata for being here and for being so willing to spend this time with us. We also want to thank the SLO Diversity Coalition because they're funding our prizes this evening. So thank you to them. And actually, I think, Renata, I'm going to do the announcements at the end, just so people can have them fresh in their memory for the events that are coming up later on this month. So I think I'll turn the time over to you.
Wow. Well, we're getting started at 5:03. That is really prompt. So thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Renoda Campbell. I'm an academic advisor at Cuesta. And I'm also, my specialty group are the men at CMC. So before COVID, I was going into East and West sides, counseling them to help them obtain their AA degrees or their ADT, so associate's degree to transfer. So it is an honor to introduce Mr. Gregory Williams, who we're going to have a conversation. And so basically the structure of tonight is to have a conversation with Gregory for a little while. And then the second half is have us talk about how we felt about the film, themes that we saw, and if there's anything that stood out that, we think is important to recognize, if that's okay. Is that okay? All right. So I hope all of you had a chance to see Time. So according to Rotten Tomatoes, Time delivers a powerful broadside against the flaws of the American justice system and chronicles one family's refusal to give up all odds. So it took 20 years to film this, to photograph this film. So it was home movies as well as the director infusing some of her black and white film in it. And it's really about a wife fighting for the release of her husband, who's serving a 60-year sentence for bank robbery. So, and she also, as I was watching the film, it's like, wow, she also, was incarcerated for this particular robbery. So, I thought it was a really interesting film to watch. It didn't surprise me. I didn't have any, real surprises in seeing it. But what I would like to do is talk to Mr. Gregory Williams about his thoughts about the film and his life. So Gregory isn't formally incarcerated, and he now works for a nonprofit called ROC, which is Reimagine Our Community. So can you talk about that before we go into the depths of the film?
Yes, I can. Reimagine Our Community is a nonprofit organization that focuses on applying social justice reform, educational accountability, law and justice accountability, and political engagement. So what we're focused on right now is being an organization as an accountability organization. And what we try to do right now is engage youth from the ages of 16 maybe to 30 years old and get them in a political arena so that we could basically position people on school boards, in different areas, and Black and brown people actually, and create equity, because we're not, having a voice at certain tables, and we need to be in these positions, and we need to see people that look like us and that are in these positions, so that we'll have something to look up to, and some people can speak to us, speak about us, and know what the struggle is, what our struggles is, and deal with us as a whole. So it's a organization, accountability organization. My family started the business from a company called Millionaire Mind Kids. Actually, my daughter is on the line here, down there. You guys see her. Her name is Naja Williams. And a little bit of history about Millionaire Mind Kids is my mother raised my daughter and my son. And what happened is, due to my problems early on, she took responsibility. I turned responsibility over to her with my children. My mother worked full time, so with that, she had to be at home with the kids. So what happened was she formed an organization, a nonprofit organization, to where she could stay home and she could be with the kids and teach them um, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So she comes out the computer, out the industry of computer technology. So that's how the program was started in 2005. Since I've been home, um, as of March, we decided to do an offshoot of Millionaire Mind Kids due to COVID. And what we want to do, as I said before, is have an accountability organization. We want to make sure that the lawmakers are treating us with equity, you know, and we want to make sure that we have a voice at tables. And we want to make sure that we're respected and given the same wages for the same types of education. We want to make sure that we are sitting at the table with everyone and being recognized. So that's
Now,
what
I have a question. So when you're talking about the accountability, is it for incarcerated individuals or for all people of color?
it's all people of color.
Okay.
It's an accountability for all people of color, whether you're incarcerated from the justice system. What we want to do is we want to reimagine the justice system. We want to reimagine the so-called mental illness. We want to remove that stigma and let people know that it's okay to get treatment, therapies. And there's a big stigma, especially in the Black and brown community, that if you get some mental health, or if you consider crazy if you're going to get therapy, or you're going, but we want to take a new look at that. We want to say, hey, look, mental wellness, get mental wellness and be proud of it, because it's working through some issues that you may need to issue. We want to reimagine the criminal justice system. We want to make sure that we are being treated fairly. We want to make sure that the laws that are created, and that's where I play in a major part in, because I'm a former I'm a former I was formerly incarcerated. So and I'm an ex-felon, and there was a lot of laws that were passed recently that got me home today. Let me just put it that way. So there are a lot of laws that are in effect, Proposition 47, Proposition 57, and these laws are laws that allows inmates in the California penal system to work their way home earlier than the sentences that they receive. So, for instance, for an example, I received a 5-year sentence, a 5-year with 80% sentence. I was able, due to some of these laws and all the rehabilitation programs that they had, that I was able to take advantage of. Off of 5 years, I only did 18 months, and I was able to come home early on an ankle monitor 2 days before they did the shutdown in COVID. So the program that I was on the ankle monitor was a program that no one really got. They people didn't even really go for it because they would get denied. But I found out what it took to go home. And the most important thing is I focused on my children. And so that means I had to, while I was in there, I had to reimagine my whole way of thinking. I had to look at my whole way of thinking and change it, because I wanted to come home. So what that left me with was no more hanging out with the crews. I had to kind of back away from them and say, look, man, I'm not associated no more. I can't be associated no more. The focus is my children, getting back home to my 4 children. I got 2 children that's in college. My daughter, she goes to Southern Law School in Louisiana. My son is up there with her in medical school. And then I got 2 babies, 4 and 5 years old.
So I want to talk to you about that. So one thing that I should let you know is that Gregory graduated from Cuesta College in the culinary arts program in 2020, and he had a 3.94 GPA. And he's also earned 3 certifications. So that is just so amazing. And he's currently a full-time student earning his AA degree in addiction studies. So, and you'll graduate in spring 2022. So there is light at the tunnel with this AA, and I'm not quite sure if you're going to go on to get a BA, but I wish you only the best. One of the things you did mention is being an advisor at CMC. For the students that take, Cuesta has a program there. Did you take classes at Cuesta, through Cuesta, Gregory?
Absolutely. That's how I graduated the culinary arts program.
Through CMC. Okay.
Yes.
And so for every class they successfully take with a C or above, they get 3 weeks off their sentences. And if they earn a full AA degree or AAT degree, they get 6 months off their sentence. So I had a situation last week where a student was frantic with me because, one, I'm not at CMC, so they can only contact me, they can either write me, it's snail mail, or give it to the coordinator that's at CMC. And he is due to get out in 6 months. And he was like, Renata, I know I earned the degree. I need you to get me this degree, because if they take the degree, if they don't receive, if they receive the degree after the 6 months, they still have to serve their 6 months because they missed the window of opportunity. Well, it turned out that he did receive his degree last week, and he did receive his transcript in time, and he had 3 days. 3 days. And so he will be out this week. So
excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
Darcy. Hi, Greg. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So my name is Darcel, and I know.
Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. I couldn't find you, Darcel.
Okay. So I know Gregory and his family. I know his children who are in college. My children went to school with them all throughout high school, and we're still in touch. So congratulations, Gregory. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question is, I kind of logged in like 5 minutes into the session because I was having trouble. I had to update Zoom on my computer. Hadn't used it in a long time. But my question is, the program that you're talking about, is that for people who are currently incarcerated?
Yes, it is for people that are currently incarcerated, and it is a very popular. There are approximately 700 students that are taking classes through Cuesta to receive their AA degrees. And there's actually a waiting list now for students that want to continue. There are multiple colleges that can take correspondence classes through CMC, but Cuesta has the largest amount of students, and so it's at about 700.
I see. And is it for both males and females, or?
Cuesta is only at CMC, so it's all male.
Oh, it's only male.
It's a California men's colony.
California men's colony. So yeah, so it's
an
all
institution for men.
Yeah.
So do they have one available for women?
There are certain prisons that do, but I believe there are probably 3 or maybe 2 or 3 in California. I'm not quite sure. But I know San Quentin has one, so I know a lot of the male ones. I don't know the female ones, but I could, if you put in the chat box your email, I can let you know which ones the females are, and I can email you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So Greg, this is really interesting that you talked about your kids, because you have 2 sets of children, 2 generations of children. How was that getting out of school and being and having, this very different set of kids?
Getting out of school?
Sorry. See, here's the counselor in me. Sorry. Getting out of being incarcerated and coming home and having your 4 children that, 2 are in college and 2 are, how old are the little ones?
4 and 5.
Yeah, they're little.
Yeah. How was it? Challenging?
Especially because you're a single dad, right?
Right, I'm a single dad of 4. Uh, my mother, she's wonderful. She's an amazing lady. And she helps me with my children. Um, how it was, well, when I came home, let me just back up a little bit. While incarcerated, I made that decision that I was focusing on just my children, focusing on getting my life better. I had turned 50 years old, and I have tried everything. I'm done. I've done everything is done. So I focused on my children. And one thing my mother used to always say to me, she used to say, "When are you going to put us first?" And while I was in prison, it really hit home, really hit me hard. And I thought about it, and like my daughter that's on the line now, she's been with me all the way through prison. And every time I got out, I did something. I left and didn't really. I'd get into relationships and and didn't really focus on my kids. And so I said to myself, this has been a repeated cycle. I don't want to repeat this cycle again. So for the first couple of years, when I come home, I'm focusing on my children, building a relationship with my children. No female, no outside, no one. And that's what I did. And I focused on my children. So what it's like being out right now with my children, my 2 oldest children, we built a relationship that they can only tell you how they feel about me today, how proud they are. They tell me how proud they are. My little babies, I missed out on the opportunity of hearing my babies say, "Dad, you my hero," with my older 2. So I built a relationship with them that I have now. But my younger 2 right now, it's like they're my world as well as my older 2. And it's like I put them first no matter what. And what it's like is overwhelming. I can't even describe to you what it's like. I haven't been in a relationship in over a year. I haven't focused on that. The only thing I focused on was bettering my life for me and my children, and so that I can leave a legacy, so that I can leave them something, so that their dad, they won't be saying, "Oh, he was a drug addict and he was a criminal and that's all he mounted. That's all he was." Now they can say, "Oh, my dad's a college graduate. My dad got his life together. My dad is in school. Me and my daughter right there. We back and forth on the phone. Look at this grade. We every morning we zooming. I mean, we duo, and I got a relationship that's beyond my wildest dreams right now. And my kids, my babies here, it's difficult, y'all. It gets difficult. It really does. Trying to go to school full time, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. Last semester, school was a challenge for me. It was, when I first went to school in prison, I was scared because I always thought I was dumb, and I always thought that, I was not college material. But I took a chance on myself, and I got straight A's. And when I came home, I didn't want to stop, because if I would have took a break, then it's a possibility I would have never returned back to school, So I wanted to keep going. So I was on the phone all through the summer trying to get in. And a lot of people on the line, cafe specialists are wonderful, man. They helped me navigate through. And I took my classes last semester and I got straight A's again. Got in an honor society. People recommend me for ASCC. I'm a senator in school. I mean, all these things. And just as I sit back, sometimes I'm overwhelmed because I sit back and I say, man, a thug, a criminal like me, like I used to be, can change. Anybody can change, because I was a drug addict. Anybody could change, And so with me and my children, we have a relationship that I can't even, I can't even express what it's like. It's just every day I'm in heaven,
Now, what's your daughter's name?
My daughter's name is Naja.
Naja, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you want to come on and say something about your dad, feel free. It's totally up to you. You don't have to do it. So, but you're in law school, so I'm sure you're used to talking. Talking up. Okay.
I get put on the spot a lot, and I actually, I asked my dad to send me the link for this presentation because he actually watched the documentary before me and then asked me if I would watch it. We had a discussion about it, talked about it. As he mentioned, I'm 24 years old. So from before I could remember, it was just back and forth, going inside, coming back out. But as he mentioned, like I've always, my dad's my favorite person. So when I see him like making these accomplishments and doing stuff, like he posted an Instagram post yesterday, a video about him talking about his life and stuff. And I called him and I was crying because first of all, I'm a Cancer, so I'm very emotional. I just want to put that out there. And also I am very proud of the person that I look at. Like, it's not that I've never not been proud of, we always just knew that he was worth so much more than what he was putting himself in. And it took him to understand. It's just like when you're going through anything in your life and you don't see for yourself that you deserve better until you actually say like, look, I deserve better. Let me put the steps forward so that I can, you know, create a better life for myself. So I feel like he's finally at that stage now. My little brother and sister, Kimi and Malik, those are like, that's my entire world. So to have them have their dad at home and him like make them snacks. And my little brother loves to say like, you're my hero. My dad will put down snacks on the counter and he'll just be like, you're my hero, Dad. Like that kind of stuff. Like that makes my heart smile, you know. But me and my dad's relationship, I've always been a daddy's girl. Like that's like I said, that's my favorite person. So just to see everything in his life happening for him, being invited to panels, like to speak about things, him graduating, all of those things is just, it just makes me happy. I'll graduate a year after he does. So it's like back to back, we'll be finishing, getting done with what we need to get done with. We talk on the phone every day to discuss, like he'll call me and ask me if a paper sounds good. And I'm like, all right, this is perfect. Like just edit this one thing. And it's just because like, I've already been to a 4-year, I'm in law school now. So I have like just a little bit more experience in this school stuff. So when it comes to him, like asking me questions, I always sit down and I'm like, all right, read me what your professor wants and then read me what you wrote so we can make sure that what you wrote matches what your professor wants. So all in all, I'm very proud of everything that he's doing, what he's accomplishing. I tell him this every day. His love language is words of affirmation. So all of the things that you guys are saying, I'm sure is juice. So I just appreciate you guys for supporting him and allowing him to be in a position of power like this to where his opinion matters. So.
Naja, do you see the huge smile on his face? This is a proud dad.
Yeah.
And it's also great because you are his accountability partner. So you make sure that he stays right, you know? So I think that's really great. Thank you so much. Like I said, I didn't, you know, if you wanted to talk, that's fine. So, okay, so let's talk about, was someone going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say hi, Naja.
Oh,
It's Darcel, Darcy's mom.
Hello.
So let's talk about the film and how it relates to your life.
I don't know what happened to my phone.
So how did this movie resonate to your experiences, Gregory? Or did you feel it did or not?
Well, the way it resonated is what I related to the most out of it is the railroading. It really doesn't show in the movie why Rob, I think it's Rob, the husband, why he actually took the 60 years. And when me and my daughter first saw the film, we sat back and we had a conversation, and I felt that he was very selfish, you know. And in my life, I've been very selfish, you know. I put my family through a lot of things, so I identified some selfishness in him. I felt like he was very selfish. But when we did the research, my daughter was like, you know, she's a law student. She's like, Dad, let's take a look at this a little deeper. So when we took a look at it a little deeper, we realized that he had been railroaded, like so many lawyers do. They took his money. He had settled for a deal for 10 to 18 years. A lawyer that they went and paid came back and said, hey, man, I can get you a better deal. I can get you into one of these impact programs and you'll only do 6 months. And he waited 2 years. And that lawyer ran out his money and they could not pay that lawyer no more. And then he quit. And by him quitting on his client was forced, like most of us are forced to either take a deal or go to trial. So now his deal is off the table. And so he has to go to trial. And it's a no-win situation. And so so he gets to 60 years, you know, and all due to his lawyer, you know, backing, we call it in the world that I come from, we call it dumping. And I know some people can relate to it on here that's called dumping us off. So the public defenders, they dump us off and they all they do is no matter if you're guilty or if you're not guilty, then they just want to get a deal.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that the wife got what 3.5 years and then he had 60, and she, you know, how that particularly works.
Well, actually the wife got 12 years.
Right, she got 12, but she served.
And actually she wasn't supposed to even serve any time. But because the lawyer dumped them off like they did, she had to go do 12. Well, she had to go do her 12-year sentence. She wound up doing 3.5 off of that 12 years. And he wound up doing 21 years off of the 60 years. All because the lawyer beat them out their money. And I don't know if he's been held accountable for that, but it's misrepresentation, you know, and that's what happens in our legal system.
Yes, I'm sorry, Greg. I had something similar happened to me. I was helping a family member, a nephew who I don't know what happened to my video here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I had helped him with legal fee to pay this attorney. He was a private attorney, and the attorney basically agreed to represent him because he was challenging his sentence. And instead of the attorney going to visit with him, the attorney actually had asked me to come into his office and review the paperwork, you know, and all the evidence that they had against him. And he never went up to visit my nephew at the jail. So basically, I believe that I got scammed out of my money. I paid him $10,000, and I wrote him a letter explaining that I felt that I deserved to have a refund because he did not do any work that he promised that he would do. And
so see,
he argued back and said that.
So that's what happens. So that's what I mean when we talk about equity with Black and brown. See, we the only thing that we presume already, whether we are not guilty or not, you know, whether we're guilty or not. And the first thing they come to us with is a deal.
Right.
You know, and so when they come to us with a deal, you don't even know if I have enough money to pay. You haven't even reviewed my case.
Exactly.
You know, I've had cases that I was innocent on, but due to me not having the money or being able to pay for anybody to really fight for me at that time, money-wise, I would take a deal.
Right.
I see.
2 and 3 years here, a year here, you know. I'm not saying that I was innocent on a lot of them. On a lot of them I was, but there were a couple that I was innocent on. you know, and I was caught at the wrong place at the wrong time. But due to my record and due to my inability to be able to seek good counsel, then I would have to take a deal or try to take my chances in trial and face a whole bunch of time versus, so 2-3 years sound better than 12 or 20 years, you know. So what's the lesser of the evils, you know? So that's
and
what
I think because oftentimes, right, I think oftentimes because you're already incarcerated, they have leverage over you because you really can't. I think something happens with your rights for representation once they've taken your money.
The attorney, you mean?
Yes, the attorney. The attorney have leverage over the clients.
they do.
Once they're incarcerated, because the victim or the incarcerated individual really can't fight back because, you know, they only have so much resources available to them.
But that's how that related to me. That's when you asked the question, to go back to the question that you asked at hand, how does that relate to me? How that's how that relates to me. And the fighting of his wife, my family fought for me like that. You know, I can't say I had the baby mama, the girlfriend to fight for me like that. But one thing that I found out from her, the reason that she fought for her husband so hard, even when the mother didn't want to, what I read was she fought for her because she had some values. And what these values was, she looked at her family and said that this is my family. And for me to let one of my family members stay in prison is unheard of. I can't let one of my family members stay in prison. I'll be less than a family member. And so my family focuses, my family, no matter how much they want to kick my butt or, you know, don't want to talk to me, or how much I tell them, I don't need y'all, this, that, and the other. When it comes down to it, your family is who you got.
Right.
You know, my mother let me come home. You know, even though when I passed that program, it was up to her to let me come to her home and go through all the process. And when you're locked up, your family's locked up as well. So his whole family was locked up. His children was locked up. Everybody's locked up. So that's how that related to me, you know, in every aspect. Anybody that's in the institution, it relates to me because I understand what it's like to be locked up and then take your family through that same situation. Your family out here trying to struggle, trying to make sure that you get a package, you know, and they don't really have it, or whatever the case be, man, and trying to just make sure that you okay living comfortable in prison, or, you know, having some type of level of comfortability in prison. And you know, it's a struggle. The whole time that you're doing prison time, they doing the same time with you. And I refuse to let that happen this time. I refuse to do that again. You know, I refuse to have my freedom taken, and I refuse to take my family through that again. You know, so I do everything that I'm supposed to do. I do everything that I want to do, and I do everything that I need to do in order to stay out of prison. And that means making myself marketable. That means making myself respectable. That means having some pride within me, believing in myself, and others believe in you when you believe in yourself. I found that out through my whole cafe team. I got a lot of sheroes over here that work with me, and they take me through it, and they let me know, man, we got your back. That's what we need sometimes. You know, sometimes us as former inmates, former drug addicts, I don't even look at myself that the disease of addiction is gone. That's gone. And a lot of people won't like to, you know, a lot of people that's in certain programs don't understand that. But I'm a firm believer. I've learned this: what you claim is what you are. And if I continue to claim that I'm that, then that's what I'll continue to be. I set myself up for a relapse every single time. How do I know? Because I have a measurable outcome. I've seen this happen over and over. I've been to rehab after rehab, and I haven't received the freedom that I have today until I let go that old adage of I was an addict, that I am an addict, or that I'm a sufferer. I'm no longer suffering. I don't suffer from the disease of addiction, and it's no longer a part of my life. My life is progression.
That's great. Bailey, go ahead.
Gregory.
Hi, Bailey.
I wanted to add something, Gregory, because your story is so powerful, and it's one story that I think so many that have been incarcerated, I think, can really relate to, only based on the years I've spent teaching out at CMC. And I wanted to add a story from a student that I heard, that was a student of mine at CMC, that is related to the Black-Brown school to prison pipeline issue. And I wanted to bring his story in because I think it's a truth that needs to be heard by lots of folks. So he's a Black man incarcerated, and he was a student of mine a year ago, pre-COVID. And in the class, there was an exercise that required him to talk about what he's learned about taking self-responsibility. And I think why this story is so heart-wrenching is because it shows a layer of a shadow. So here's a man who is in his 60s who talked about he's still beating himself up because he felt he didn't take enough responsibility when he was put on trial. He was put on trial at age 17, and he's beating himself up because his lawyer doesn't do anything, but he thinks it was his job as 17. He thinks he should have had the knowledge to stand up for himself in court. He's been beating himself up because he's believed it should have been him. He was failed by the system in lots of ways. He is taking responsibility for the crime he committed. But his Black skin is a story of also taking on this self-blame. And I'm very happy to hear, Gregory, how you are believing in yourself. And it's almost a miracle considering you didn't get a lot of support to do it. And the student that I'm talking about is still serving his time because I think he was screwed over. And the world, the white world, the general world thinks, oh, he's an inmate, he's a convict, write him off.
Right.
But his story needs to be understood in the context of the documentary too.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. So I have one more question for Mr. Williams before I come to all of you to find out your input and your thoughts about the film. So how has it been managing life outside of prison for you?
I follow instructions. So managing life is right now is easy. my worst days out here are better than my best days in there.
That's powerful.
There's nothing out here that's harder that I can't do out here. There's nothing that's too hard to do out here that's worth me going back to prison.
Okay.
I can't do it. I'm old. I'm too old. And I just don't want that type of a lifestyle. So everything that's out here is right now, it's peaches and cream, really. Even when it seems hard, it's not. You know, I've traveled up mountaintops with backpacks on and tubes, you know, fighting on fire lines in front of fires for years at times, man. Didn't know if I was going to walking on cliffs at the edge of cliffs. Didn't know if I was going to live or die. Didn't know if I was going to make it out of a fire or not. All for $1 a day. You know, and it was hard sleeping on mountains. It was hard going up mountains. It was hard, you know, having somebody tell you when you can and can't go to the restroom. It's hard when it's time for you to go lights out. It's hard for when riots is kicking off and you don't know if you're gonna go home or not. You don't know if you know, and if you don't participate, you don't, you know, you get dealt with. So it's hard to turn away from people and say, look, man, I'm no longer associated. And everybody say, okay, you're on your own. You're on your own. And you have to walk still with your head up, not knowing what's coming at you next, not knowing who's coming at you, but what's more important to you is getting home. Then that's a chance you take. It's hard being called out your name in the institution full of men, and you have to bite your tongue because you know one move that you can make, you know what you're capable of, and you know what you can do, and you know what one move that you make can cost you your entire life. And people test you like that in there because they got life. A lot of them have life in it. They don't want to see you go home, you know. And so it's hard to bite that bullet and say, okay, I'll be your BITCH, or I'll be your punk, or I'll be your whatever you want me to be. You know, that's your truth. That's not my truth. So I'm going to keep on going, you know. And that's what I had to do this time. And I made it home.
You know, I wanted to just make a comment. I don't know what happened to my video, but this is Darcel. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can understand what you're speaking about, Gregory, because I used to work in the federal prison. I'm actually a nurse, and I was working behind the scene, and that my first experience working in that environment, I got the opportunity to experience seeing grown men fearful for their lives. So I could understand what you're saying, Greg, because when they would have riots or when there would be some kind of issues going on and the inmates would go on strike, these men, they were actually fearful for their lives, coming into the health services to do their work or going to the cafeteria to do their work, because their leader was basically telling them if they went to work, they were going to be dealt with. And I was able to experience seeing these big muscular men in fear of their life. And I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone, it's time to talk about your thoughts about the movie. So is anyone interested in sharing? I mean, we have basically 10 minutes to talk about, are there any nuggets that you know,
I haven't seen the movie yet. I haven't seen.
Okay, so you should. I would definitely encourage you to see it. So, are there any nuggets or ahas or any themes that you saw in the film that you'd like to talk about? Yes, Denise.
I thought that's what we're here for, to watch it.
I know. I thought so too.
No, sorry.
So where do we go, or when do we what channel or what time do we see the movie? Is it
Allison,
aired?
you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so the movie is available on Prime Video, so you can watch it
Okay.
there. Yeah, so like the way that this was set up was that we invited people to watch the film and then we were going to discuss it later.
Oh, I
know
see.
that might present some challenges for people. We're working on trying to make that easier, honestly.
And what's the name of it?
Time.
Oh, time.
Time. Okay.
Time. And
Okay.
yeah.
It's on Prime.
So is there anyone that did see the film that wanted to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yes, Julianne.
I just wanted to say, Gregory, I really, and it's not so much about the film. I mean, there was a portion of the film, but I really want to say that I think your mom is amazing, and for taking the responsibility of raising your children while you were locked up. And that to me kind of, it just kind of, it makes me feel good that, that your mom did that. She stepped up. I mean, look at Naja and your son, your older children, and just how it just shows what an amazing job she did in raising them. And I know she raised you, and, and how your thought of mind is now. I know you're going to do an amazing job in finishing off raising your little ones. But I noticed in the film, there was sort of like a break, and maybe they didn't have a lot of film, but I wondered what happened to the kids because there were the boys, and while she was locked up and he was locked up, there was really no portion of the film that shared about where the children were or who raised them. I think maybe it was her mother.
Yeah, I think it was her mom.
It was her mother.
Mom who raised them. But I just want to put a shout out to all those family members who, who stand up and take responsibility that they don't have to take. And, the children are better for it. And I just think that, that should be recognized. And I met Greg's mom briefly, and we had a little celebration for him graduating. And so he was able to show us all his kids and his family. Although I've never met him in person, I just I just feel so close for Gregory, and all the things he's done in the short amount of time he's been at Cuesta is just amazing too. So shout out to your mom and all the other family members who are there. Darcel, you were there for your nephew, and all those who have stuck by the incarcerated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Denise?
I had a question about the film. I have watched it. So Rob got 60-year sentencing. His wife, who was driving the car but didn't go in the bank, I believe that's true, got the 3.5. But there was a cousin who was in the bank robbery with him, and I wondered how his story turned out.
Yeah, they really didn't talk about.
Yeah, unless I missed it.
So I actually did research on the entire story, and his nephew, it was his nephew, I think. He didn't get nearly as many. I think he got like 20 something years, but he didn't get nearly as much time. The whole reason why Rich got 60 years was because he had a deal where the nephew did not have the same attorney that his uncle had, that told him, because the story, it doesn't really tell you how the lawyers work and how they spoke to the clients or anything in that manner. But it, after doing research, the wife and Rich, which is the husband, had, they had their own separate attorney that they had hired. The public defender that was working on their case had, they had dropped the public defender, relieved the public defender of counsel, and hired their own attorney. The DA had gave Rich a deal, proposed Rich a deal to say, if you go to jail, your wife does not have to go to jail. If you take this term, your wife does not have to go. So that's why in the film, if you listen, she says, her son comes to her and says, "Mommy, I thought you didn't have to go in." And she says, "Well, I didn't think that I did have to go in," because that was the deal that was promised to them at the beginning, that if he goes in and serves it was 10 to 18 or 10 to 12 years. If he goes in and serves that time, then she would not have to go in. So when they decided to bring counsel on their own, what happened was the attorney advised them if they were going to bring him on as counsel, they would have to say that they were not going to accept the plea bargain. In that exchange, they no longer had a deal on the table. They were either going to go to trial or because the attorney promised them that that he could get them a better deal. So if you're looking at somebody they had like 6 kids
and she had $15,000 that she'd given him too.
Right. So, but I'm saying this is before she even gave him any money.
Oh,
so
okay.
They're sitting here, they're looking at the facts of the case. Like, okay, if you go away for 18 years, like all of our kids will be grown. So it's just a lot of things emotional wise that you have to look at to see, because at the end of the day, they caught him red-handed. He was it was him who did it. So there's no way he could go to trial and say it wasn't me. That's not the case. And I know when me and my dad were first having the conversation, we were discussing that before we did research, and he was saying, like, I know people who know that they committed a crime but will still go to trial just to see what they can get out of the case. So that wasn't what happened in this instance. What happened was the attorney told him and the wife, I can get you guys a better deal if you hire me as counsel, but you have to not accept the plea bargain. So with them not accepting the plea bargain, the deal of him going to jail for 10 to 18 years and her not going to prison was off the table. So that's why she ended up having to go, because when they went to trial, they found both of them guilty. He had to go and then he got sentenced for 60 years, but she took a deal to where she didn't have to go to trial. So she was sentenced to 12, but only had to do 3.5 years. So that's what
great having an attorney on a to-be attorney. Wait, how many more years do you have? 1 more year?
I have 2 years.
2 more years. This is great. Thank you so much for being here and giving this information. This is great. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just
no, it's all good. That's why I was just it really helps to watch it and then have these kind of discussions after, because me and my dad were having the exact discussion, and I was just and I kept telling him the whole time, there's no way that this man knew he had 6 kids at home and he was willing to risk going to prison for 60 years, and he knew he was caught red-handed. Something else had to have happened. And that's ultimately what happened, was the attorney played a role. And earlier you guys were discussing about it's called attorney misconduct, professional misconduct. When an attorney does something that's against the ABA rules and regulations of professional responsibility, they can be sanctioned for those violations. So what happened, Ms. Darcel, you were saying this man took $10,000 and didn't do what he said he was going to do. If that's the case, then he could be sanctioned for his indiscretions while he was representing your nephew. You just have to make sure that the obligation that you signed when you hired him as an attorney stated specifically that he was supposed to go and see him.
That's my baby.
So it's a lot of legal background.
That's my baby right there.
It's a lot of legal background.
Thank you, Ms. Naja.
No, attorneys like to hide things underneath stuff. So if you have a contract or something, I would just really read it through and make sure that it obligated him that he had to go and visit, and not that he did his best on the case, because he could say he did all the paperwork, the research, and everything necessary and didn't feel like he needed to go and see him in custody. And if that's the case, then he fulfilled his obligation. He just might not have done it in the aspect that you would have liked him to do. So
is there a statute of limitation? Is there a statute?
I haven't taken evidence yet.
I'm just wondering, because this was several years ago. Yeah.
A lot of stuff that, like the questions that we have about the legal field and things like that, it just takes a little bit of research. So all of our answers can be found on Google these days.
Oh,
Just make sure
okay.
you get like an EDU site, but most
Okay.
definitely.
Well, thank you, Ms. Majer.
Is there anyone else that would like to talk about their thoughts about the
Is
film?
that the movie?
Yes.
All right,
Wait,
thank you.
Black and
That's
white?
it.
Yeah, it's black and white. It says Amazon original.
No.
Yes.
All right.
No. You have to finish
You know, I would just like to say that the movie really underscores the importance of prison reform. And when mandatory sentencing was invoked a number of years ago, we failed as a society to understand how that was going to affect generation after generation. And I feel very strongly that we should do away with standardized sentencing, that because all of us are individuals and we should be, you know, what we need for rehabilitation, what we need to get off drugs, whatever it is, right, needs to be individualized for each of us. And so I just want to encourage everybody on here that if you are asked to sign a petition for prison reform, if you're asked to comment on it, that you would just remember this movie and how life-changing it was for this family, and it didn't have to be.
I kind of like to piggyback on what Donna said. This is Andrea. Donna's talking about those mandatory sentencing, which is huge. And also Bailey talked about the school to prison pipeline and just growing up especially in California. I mean, it's not like we saw that directly in San Luis Obispo, but I mean, you look at the prison population where it's gone from 1975 to where it is now, and how all of those things started very early on with suspensions, with expulsions for students. And I know the movie briefly touched on and how she spoke about not just her husband's release, but also prison reform. But I don't think it went deep enough. And I don't think that was necessarily a fault of the movie. I just don't think it went deep enough. But I think, you know, I've tried to educate my own kids on mandatory sentencing and the school to prison pipeline. And I just think it's just so important for us to understand as a society in order to change it.
Thank you.
All right. That's why ROC, excuse me for one second, ROC was one of the organizations. We did a proposition, and I actually handled all the criminal justice reforms, Proposition 17, 25, and 20. And so two of them passed, and we kept the Proposition 57 and Prop 47. So it went in and it passed. It stayed on the bill. So we still have a lot of reform that's going on in the prison population right now. The no bail didn't pass, but so we have a lot of things that's working, and that's what the mission is for our organization as well, is to, you know, reimagine all these different the criminal justice system. And that's my baby, you know, addiction treatment and the criminal justice system. That's my baby, because that's the goal that I have, is to open up a treatment facility and for families, and to hopefully implement and bring home dads and from prison, and teach them how to be fathers, all, you know, again. And those are some of the things that my goals, my long-term goals are, you know, in my giving back.
Gregory,
That's
can
wonderful.
I ask you if you've seen the documentary 13?
Absolutely.
Could you, not that we can't, not that we have time for this, but I just quickly, I would love it for you to share what may have been missed in time. You know, just piggybacking on Andrea, that 13th addressed, or any of that. I'm not making any sense, so forget it.
Well, no, you are making sense, Bailey. I understand what you're saying. The 13th Amendment, are you talking about the movie, The 13th? Yeah. Well, so we look at the 13th Amendment, and from what I remember reading on the 13th Amendment is it stated that and I'm gonna give a quick brief. It stated that if you are prison, or if you are ex-felon, or if you are in the prison system, you're still considered a slave, right? And so if you're on probation, in so many words, you still considered a slave. So what the 13th Amendment was, if I remember this right, it takes all the rights away from prisoners that are in prison. It keeps you to a point to where you are, your wages are cut, and I forget how it came about so much, but that's the gist of it. Come on, daughter, help me out.
It's an adaptation of slavery. So the 13th
Right.
Amendment is the abolishment of slavery unless you are imprisoned. That's what
Right.
it is. So
Absolutely.
it's not after you get out or anything in that aspect. It says that they can treat you as a slave if you are incarcerated. So
Right.
that's the only exception to it's modern day slavery. So it's giving the government opportunity to enslave its own citizens without calling it slavery.
Is that what his mother meant when in the movie, when she talked about it's almost like slavery times?
Mm-hmm.
His mother, or it might have been her mother.
It was her mother who was
speaking,
but yes.
Mentioned, it was her mom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what she meant when she said that it's like slavery times. Mm-hmm. It's just a continuation. It never stopped.
Right. It's modern day slavery. It gives the government opportunity to enslave its citizens without calling it slavery, because slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. But the fact that it has a provision in the 13th Amendment that although it abolishes slavery, you can still be considered, and it doesn't say considered a slave, it's just you can be like imprisoned in the same aspect if you go to prison or jail, which is how prisoners cannot sue because they are not making minimum wage. You're not a citizen when you're incarcerated. You're no longer a person in the eyes of the government, which is why if you see prison conditions, they could care less about what's going on, because in the eyes of the government, those people who are incarcerated are no longer citizens of the United States. They're not counted in the census. They're not like nothing. They're no longer a part of the United States citizens.
So basically, if you have a penal code case against you, you're not able to vote, you're not able to be property owners, and you're basically giving up all of the rights that the United States citizens would normally have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It's 6:05. I would like to thank all of you so much for coming to this. Mr. Gregory Williams, Naja Williams, thank you so much for contributing. This has really, really been a great discussion, and maybe we can have another one in the future and go and delve a little bit more into.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.
So, Allie and Denise, I think you would like to make some announcements on winners and other things.
Yes, go ahead, Denise.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, guys. Gregory, that was really impactful. I have a lot to think about. I might even watch that movie again, too, to sort of take in more of the details. But I just want to give you a small thank you gift. We have a $50 Target gift certificate that I will be sending to you. The foundation funded that for us, and it's just a little token of our appreciation. And I have your email, so watch your email tomorrow.
All right. Did I win?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gregory.
I want to win too. Can I win?
No, you didn't win. It's just for you.
Yeah, it's just for you. Yeah, so in reference to the prizes, yes, everyone who signed in, I can actually share that again really quickly if people want to sign in. Sorry, hold on. Can everybody see that? So if you want to sign in and possibly win a gift card to Grubhub, you can put that link, the red link, into your browser, or you can scan with your phone. And it's just going to ask your name and your email, and you'll be entered into a contest for a gift card. So if you'd like to do that, please do. And then I will pick at random, it'll be fair, a couple winners, and then I'll be notifying you via email that you won, and we'll be sending you the gift card. And just while we're doing that, there is another Black History Month event tomorrow night. It's a Black Entrepreneurial, can never say that word, summit, where there's some Black entrepreneurs that are going to be on a panel. And that's tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And you can find that information, like all the details, the Zoom link and all of that, on Cuesta's website. If you go to Cuesta's website and you put in Cultural Center, you'll find a full list of the Black History Month events. And so you can find what's going to happen tomorrow night at that event or next week, because we have more events coming up.
Can I say something?
Oh, of course.
I just want to thank everybody that showed up. Thank you, Renoda Campbell and Allison Phelps, and thank all my classmates, my instructors, my friends, family, and everybody that showed up.
Thank you for inviting me, Gregory.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Maria. I see you down there.
Okay, buddy.
Gregory, you got one brilliant little girl there, man.
Thank you.
Naja, you're brilliant. I got to get going, though. Thanks for the invite.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for
Y'all
coming.
have a good one.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you guys
Naja, take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Greg, you made me cry, brother.
Oh, don't cry.
No, it was good. It was good tears. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
was
guys for showing
wonderful.
up. Thank you.
Hey, Greg,